Good morning, everyone. Myself is Kiran Mai, lecturer in physics working at Government City College. Today, now we are going to discuss about diffraction of light. Diffraction is nothing but the waves bend round the obstacles placed in their path. For example, water waves escaping through a small hole spread out in all directions as if they have originated at the hole. Similarly, sound form of wave motion is found to pass round obstacles of moderate dimensions. The amount of bending, however, depends upon the size of the obstacle and the wavelength of a wave. It was argued that light, which is a wave motion, should also bend round obstacles. A minute investigation reveals that light suffers from deviation from its straight path in passing close to the edge of opaque obstacles and narrow slits. The deviation is extremely small when the wavelength of light waves is small in comparison to the dimensions of the obstacle or aperture. For example, when a light waves diverging from a narrow slit S, which is illuminated by a monochromatic source O, pass an obstacle AB with a straight edge A parallel to the slit. The geometrical shadow on the screen is never sharp. A small portion of light bends around the edge into geometrical shadow. Outside the shadow, parallel to its edge, several bright and comparatively dark bands are observed. Thus, when light falls on obstacles or small apertures whose size is comparable with the wavelength of light, there is a departure from straight lines propagation. The light bends round the corners of the obstacles or apertures and enters in the geometrical shadow. This bending of light is called diffraction. It was found that diffraction produces bright and dark fringes known as diffraction bands or fringes. The correct interpretation of diffraction phenomenon was provided by Fresnel. According to Fresnel, the diffraction phenomenon is due to mutual interference of secondary wavelets originating from various points of the wavefront, which are not blocked off by the obstacle. Fresnel thus applied Huygens' principle of secondary wavelets in conjugation with the principle of interference and calculated the position of fringes. It was observed that the calculated results were in good agreement with the observed diffraction pattern. It should be remembered that diffraction effects are observed only when a portion of the wavefront is cut off by some obstacle. Two kinds of diffractions are there. The phenomenon of diffraction is divided into two waves. First is Fraunhofer diffraction. In this class of diffraction, source and screen or telescope are placed at infinity or effectively at infinity. In this case, the wavefront which is incident on the aperture or obstacle is plane. And second one is Fresnel's diffraction. In this class of diffraction, source and screen are placed at finite distances from the aperture of obstacle having sharp edges. In this case, no lenses are used for making the rays parallel. The incident wavefront are either spherical or cylindrical. Now, what is the difference between interference and diffraction? There are the following conditions are there. In phenomenon of interference, the interaction takes place between two separate wavefronts originating from the two coherent sources. While in the phenomenon of diffraction, the interaction takes place between the secondary wavelets originating from different points of exposed parts of the same wavefront. And second point is, in the interference pattern, the regions of minimum intensity are usually almost perfectly dark, while it is not so in diffraction pattern. Next one, the third point is, the width of the fringes in the interference may or may not be equal or uniform. While in diffraction pattern, fringe width of various fringes are never equal. Fifth one, in an interference pattern, all the maxima are of same intensity, but in diffraction pattern, they are of varying intensity. Resultant of n simple harmonic motions. Let there be n vibrations of same period, same amplitude small a, and same phase difference d between successive vibrations which act on a particle simultaneously. Our aim is to consider the resultant amplitude of these vibrations. For this purpose, we construct the polygon of amplitudes as shown in figure. The closing side OP and angle theta then give the resultant amplitude R and phase of the resultant vibration. To evaluate R and theta, we resolve the amplitudes along and perpendicular to OA and write R cos theta equals to A into 1 plus cos D plus cos 2D plus cos so on up to cos n minus 1 into D. R sin theta equals to A into sin D plus sin 2D plus so on up to sin n minus 1 into D. Now multiplying equations by 2 sin D by 2, we get 2R cos theta sin D by 2 equals to A into 2 sin D by 2 plus 2 sin D cos D sin D by 2 plus so on. Therefore, by solving that, we get 2a nd by 2 cos n minus 1 d by 2. Similarly, multiplying equation 2 by 2 sin d by 2 and simplifying, we get r sin theta equals to a into sin nd by 2 by sin d by 2 into sin n minus 1 into d by 2. Squaring the equations, we get r square equals to a square into sin square nd by 2 divided by sin square d by 2. Dividing the above equation with this equation, we get tan theta equals to tan of n minus 1 into d by 2. Theta equals to n minus 1 into d by 2. An important case arises when n is infinity, large and amplitude A and phase difference D are infinitely small. Let Na equals to A and Nd equals to 2 alpha. Therefore, we get theta equals to n minus 1 into D by 2. That is nothing but alpha. Fraunhofer diffraction at single slit. Normal incidence method represents a section of AB of a narrow slit of width E perpendicular to plane of paper. Let a plane wavefront W dash of monochromatic light of wavelength lambda propagating normally to the slit be incident on it. Let the diffracted light be focused by means of a convex lens on a screen placed in the focal plane of the lens. According to Huygens-Fresnel, every point of the wavefront in the plane of the slit is a source of secondary spherical wavelets, which is spread out to the right in all directions. The secondary wavelets traveling normally to the slit, that is along the direction OP0, are brought to focus at P0 by the lens. Thus, P0 is a bright central image. The secondary wavelets traveling at an angle theta with the normal are focused at a point P1 on the screen. The point P1 is of the minimum intensity or maximum intensity depending upon the path difference between the secondary waves originating from the corresponding points of wavefronts. Next, mathematical theory. In order to find out the intensity at P1, draw a perpendicular AC on BR. The path difference between secondary wavelets from A and B in direction theta equals to BC. That is AB sin theta, that is E sin theta. Corresponding phase difference is 2 pi by lambda into E sin theta. Now, consider that the width of the slit is divided into n equal parts and the amplitude of the wave from each part is A. The phase difference between any two consecutive waves from these parts would be 1 by 1 n into total phase. That is 1 by n into 2 pi by lambda into E sin theta, that is D. Using method of vector addition of amplitudes, we get R equals to A into sin nd by 2 by sin d by 2. That is sin pi e sin theta by lambda that divided by sin pi e sin theta by n lambda. That is sin alpha by sin alpha by n, where alpha is pi e sin theta by lambda. That is A sin alpha by n. Capital A into sin alpha by alpha. When n tends to infinity, A tends to 0. But product Na equals to capital A remains finite. Now intensity is given by I equals to R square equals to A square sin square by alpha whole square. That is I naught into sin alpha by alpha whole square. Now for this Fourier transform method, consider the case of a narrow slit. Let a plane wavefront W dash of a monochromatic light of wavelength lambda propagating normally to the slit be incident on it. O is the center of slit. Consider a very small length dy of the slit whose linear dimension is large compared to the width. Dy is taken at a distance y from O. Let C by A be the amplitude of vibration of the secondary source particle at the origin. Then the vibration of secondary sources at the origin or at all points in the slit can be written as phi equals to C by A into e power I omega t. The displacement at P distant R1 from source due to vibration from dy is given by d phi p equals to C by A but divided by R1 into e power I into omega t minus k R1 into dy. From figure, R equals to R1 plus y sin theta. Therefore, d phi of p equals to C by A by R into e power t into omega t minus kr into e power I ky sin theta dy. As y and sin theta are both small and hence the factor R1 in the denominator is replaced by R. Further, small angle of diffraction theta, we have R is approximately equals to capital D. D of phi of P equals to C by A capital D e power I omega t minus kr into e power I ky into sin theta dy. That is C equals to C by AD into e power omega t minus kr. The total displacement at P can be obtained by integrating the above equation from within the limits minus a by 2 to plus a by 2, where a is the width of this slit. Therefore, let us define a slit function s of y in the following manner. S of y equals to limits S of y equals to 1 for a minus 2 is less than or equal to y less than or equal to plus a by 2, and next one is 0. In terms of slit function, s of y can be written as phi of p equals to c into integral minus infinity to plus infinity e power I ky sin theta into s of y dy. Therefore, the slit function s of y is the unit step function. So, the amplitude expressed amplitude function can be expressed as a Fourier transform of a slit function s of y. Now, phi of p, xi of p equals to limits minus infinity to minus a by 2 into e power I ky into sin theta into s of y dy plus integral minus a by 2 to plus a by 2 e power I ky sin theta into s of y dy plus integral a by 2 to infinity e power I ky sin theta into s of y dy. The first and third integrals are 0 as s of y in a step function. Consider the second integral. Integral minus a by 2 to plus a by 2 e power I k y into sin theta of 1 dy equals to e power I k y sin theta by I k sin theta. Applying the limits minus a by 2 to plus a by 2, we get 2 divided by k sin theta into e power I k a by 2 sin theta minus e power minus I k a by 2 sin theta divided by 2i. That is 2 sin pi a sin theta by 2 theta by lambda divided by 2 pi sin theta by lambda. That is a into sin pi a sin theta by lambda divided by pi a sin theta by lambda equals to a sin alpha by alpha, where alpha is pi a sin theta by lambda. Therefore, I equal to phi of p into phi of p, that is c square by r square into sin alpha by alpha whole square, that is I naught into sin alpha by alpha whole square. Principle of maximum. The expression for resultant amplitude r can be written in ascending powers of alpha as r equals to a by alpha into alpha minus alpha cube by 3 factorial plus alpha power 5 by 5 factorial, so on. That is, if negative terms vanish, the value of r will be maximum. That is, alpha is 0. Alpha equal to pi e sin theta by lambda equals to 0. That is, sin theta equals to 0. Now, maximum value of r is a and intensity is proportional to a square. The condition theta equals to 0 means that this maximum is formed by those secondary wavelets which travel normally to the slit. The maximum is known as principal maximum. Minimum intensity positions. The intensity will be minimum when sin alpha is 0. The values of alpha which satisfy the equation alpha equals to plus or minus pi to plus or minus 2 pi, like that, so on. Pi e sin theta by lambda equals to plus or minus m pi, where m is integers. In this way, we obtain the points of minimum intensity on either side of principal maximum. Secondary maxima. In addition to principal maximum at alpha equals to 0, there are weak secondary maxima between equally spaced maxima. The positions can be obtained with the rule of finding maxima and minima of a given function in calculus. Differentiating the expression of I with respect to alpha and equating to 0, we have di by d alpha equals to d by d alpha of a square into sin alpha by alpha whole square is 0. Either sin alpha will be 0 or alpha cos alpha minus sin alpha is 0. The equation sin alpha is 0 gives the values of alpha for which the intensity is 0 on the screen. Hence, the positions of maxima are given by the roots alpha cos alpha minus sin alpha equals to 0 or alpha equals to tan alpha. The values of alpha satisfying the above equation are obtained graphically by plotting the curves. The points of intersection of two curves gives the values of alpha which satisfy the above equation. The plots of y equals to alpha and y equals to tan alpha are shown in figure. The points of intersections are alpha equals to 0, comma, plus or minus 3 pi by 2, comma, plus or minus 5 pi by 2, comma, so on. Or more exactly to alpha equals to 0, plus or minus 1.3430 pi, comma, plus or minus 2.462 pi, comma, so on. Alpha equals to 0 gives principal maximum. Substituting approximate values of alpha in the previous equation, we get the intensities of various maxima. I naught equals to capital A square. I1 equals to a square into sine 3 pi by 2 by 3 pi by 2 whole square, that is a square by 22. I2 is a square into sine pi by 2 by 5 pi by 2 whole square, that is a square by 62, and so on. From the expression of I0, I1, I2, it is evident that most of the incident light is concentrated in the principal maximum. Intensity distribution of in graph. A graph showing the variation of intensity with alpha is shown in figure. The diffraction pattern consists of a small a central principal maxima occurring in the direction of incident rays. These are subsidiary maxima of decreasing intensity on either sides of it at positions a equals to plus or minus 3 pi by 2 or 5 plus or minus 5 pi by 2, and so on. Between subsidiary maxima there are minima at positions alpha equals to plus or minus pi, comma plus or minus 2 pi, comma plus or minus 3 pi. It should be noted that subsidiary maxima do not fall exactly midway between two minima, but they are deplaced towards the center of a pattern of course. The displacement decreases as the order of maximum increases. Next is oblique incidence. Consider the Fraunhofer diffraction by a single slit in case of oblique incidence. A parallel beam of light is incident on the slit AB with I is the angle of incidence. Consider the diffraction effects at an angle theta. For this purpose, we divide the slit into narrow strips parallel to the length of the slit. One such element of area capital EF of width delta x at a distance x from B as shown in figure. The phase of wavelet from the element under consideration relative to the wavefront from B is delta x equals to 2 pi by lambda into C1e plus ED1. Delta alpha equals to 2 pi by lambda into x into sin I plus sin theta. If E is the width of the slit, then total phase difference is given by 2 alpha equals to 2 pi E by lambda into sin I plus sin theta. The amplitude of wave from each strip can be taken to the same, but their initial phase will differ by a constant amount. The resultant amplitude of all the waves from different strips can be obtained by the method of vector addition of amplitudes. As the amplitudes of vibrations are equal, of course, very small, and the phase difference increases regularly from the strip to strip. The polygon tends to a circular or OM as shown in figure. The chord OM gives the resultant amplitude due to all wavelets. This is given by chord OM equals to 2ON, that is 2R sin alpha. Here Q is the center and R is the radius of circular arc. The length of the arc OM must be directly proportional to the width E of the slit. That is, the length of the arc OM equals to KE equals to A. 2 alpha equals to arc OM divided by radius equals to A by R. 2R equals to A by alpha. Therefore, from the two above equations, chord OM equals to A into sin alpha by alpha. That is, R equals to A into sin alpha by alpha. Intensity I equals to R square equals to A square into sin alpha by alpha whole square. The intensity will be minimum when sin alpha equals to 0. Intensity will be minimum when sin alpha equals to 0. The values of alpha which satisfy this equation are alpha equals to plus or minus pi, comma plus or minus 2 pi, comma plus or minus 3 pi, comma so on. pi e by lambda into sin I plus sin theta equals to plus or minus m pi, where m is an integer. Theta gives the direction in which minima are observed. Since the value of theta depends on m, we replace theta by tm. Sin I plus sin theta m equals to plus or minus m lambda by e. Next is Fraunhofer diffraction at a circular aperture. Let AB be a circular aperture of a diameter small d. A plane wavefront WW dash of monochromatic light of wavelength lambda propagating normally to the circular aperture incident on it. The diffraction beam is focused on the screen by a convex lens. Every point of the wavefront in the plane of circular aperture is a source of secondary wavelets, which spread out to the right in all directions. The wavelets traveling along the normal to the circular aperture come to focus at P0. Because all the normal wavelets travel the same distance before reaching the point P0, and hence they are all reinforced once another. Therefore, P0 corresponds to the position of central maximum. Consider the secondary waves traveling in a direction inclined at an angle theta with the normal to the aperture. They meet at a point P1 on the screen. Let P0 P1 equals to x. The path difference between the extreme waves point A and B is AC equals to AB sin theta, that is d sin theta. In the same way, as a case of single slit, a point P1 will be minimum intensity if the path difference is an integral multiple of lambda, and of maximum intensity if the path difference is odd multiple of lambda by 2. That is d sin theta equals to m lambda. That is 2m plus 1 into lambda by 2 for maxima, where m is integers. The term m equals to 0 corresponds to central maximum. If the point P1 is of minimum intensity, then all the points which are at the same distance from P0 as P1, that is all points lying on a circle of radius x, will be of minimum intensity. The diffraction pattern may be considered by rotating intensity distribution graph of a single slit. About the central axis passing through P0, about which the central circular aperture is perfectly symmetrical. The point P0 traces out a circular ring of uniform illumination. Thus, the diffraction pattern consists of a central bright disk called Airy's disk, surrounded by alternate dark and bright concentric rings called Airy's rings. The intensity of dark rings is 0 and that of bright rings decreases gradually outwards from P0. The angular radius theta of Airy's disk, that is the angular separation between the center of bright disk and the first dark ring, is given by theta equals to 1.22 lambda by t, where lambda is the wavelength of the incident light and d is the diameter of the circular aperture. Collecting lens is very nearer to circular aperture of the screen is at a large distance x from lens, then sin theta equals to x by f, where f is focal length of the lens. Further, the first secondary maximum d sin theta equals to 1 into lambda. Therefore, sin theta equals to lambda by d. Therefore, x by f equals to lambda by d lambda by d. That is x equals to f lambda by d, where x is the radius of the Airy's disk. It was shown by Airy that exact value of x is given by 1.22 f into lambda by small d. The diameter of the aperture is large, the radius of the central disk is small. Fraunhofer diffraction of plane waves passing through a circular aperture is of fundamental importance in the discussion of the resolving powers of telescope and microscope. in view of the circular form of lenses employed as objectives and eyepieces in these instruments. Resolving powers. When two objects are very nearer to each other or they are at very large distance from our eye, the eye may not be able to see them as separate. If we want to see them separate, optical instruments such as telescope, microscope, etc. for close objects and prism and grating, etc. for spectral lines are employed. If we assume that the instruments employed are completely free from all optical defects, the image of a point object or line is not simply a point or line, but it is a diffraction pattern with a bright central maximum and other secondary maxima having minima in between of rapidly decreasing intensity. Thus, an optical instrument is said to be able to resolve two-point objects if the corresponding diffraction patterns are distinguishable from each other. The ability of the instrument to produce their separate patterns is known as resolving power. The limit of resolution of an optical instrument is defined as the smallest angle subtended at its object by 2 pix, which can be distinguished as separate. The reciprocal of limit of resolution is called the resolving power. Rayleigh's criterion of resolution. According to Rayleigh criterion, two sources are resolvable by an optical instrument when the central maximum in the diffraction pattern of one falls over the first minimum in the diffraction of the other and vice versa. In order to illustrate the criterion, consider the resolution of two wavelengths lambda 1 and lambda 2 by grating. The intensity curves of the diffraction patterns of two wavelengths as shown in figure. The difference in wavelengths is such that their principal maxima are separately visible. There is a distinct point of zero intensity in between the two. Hence, the two wavelengths are resolved. Consider the case when the difference in wavelengths is smaller and such that the central maxima of wavelengths coincides with the first minimum of the other as shown in figure B. The resultant intensity curve is shown by thick curve. The curve shows a distinct dip in the middle of the two central maxima. That is, there is a noticeable decrease in intensity between the two central maxima, indicating the presence of two different wavelengths. Thus, the two wavelengths can be distinguished from one another according to Rayleigh. They are said to be just resolved. Consider the case when the difference in wavelengths is so small that central maxima corresponding to two wavelengths come still closer as shown in figure C. The resultant intensity curve in this case is quite smooth without any dip, thus giving this impression as if there is only one wavelength source, although somewhat bigger and stronger. Thus, the two spectral lines can be resolved only up to a certain limit expressed by Rayleigh criterion. Limit of resolution of a telescope. As shown in figure, consider a distant point of source of light O lying on the axis of telescope object. The boundary of the object acts like a circular aperture. So, the image of this star formed by the objective is a Fraunhofer diffraction pattern. The diffraction pattern consists of a central bright disk eye called Airy's disk surrounded by alternated dark and bright concentric rings called Airy's rings. The angular radius theta is of the Airy's disk, that is the angular separation between the center of bright disk and first dark ring, is given by theta equals to 1.2 lambda by d, where lambda is the wavelength of the incident light and d is the diameter of the object of the telescope. Let O dash be the another star where nearer to O. Its image will be I dash. Formed by the objective of telescope will also be a diffraction pattern. According to Rayleigh's criterion, the two images of the stars will be just resolved provided the center eye of central bright disk due to O falls on the first dark ring due to O dash. This is possible when the angular separation between the centers of the disk, that is angle I dash, is equal to the angular radius theta of either disk. Thus, alpha equals to theta, that is 1.22 lambda by d radians. By definition of limit of resolution, alpha is the minimum angle of resolution. Hence, limit of resolution of telescope is 1.22 lambda by d radians. Next is Fraunhofer diffraction by a double slit. Normal incidence. Let AB and CD be two parallel slits of equal width. Equal width E and separated by an opaque distance small d. The distance between the corresponding middle points of the two slits is E plus d. Let a parallel beam of monochromatic light of wavelength lambda be incident normally upon the two slits. The light diffracted from these slits is focused by a lens on the screen XY placed in the focal plane of lens. The diffraction at two slits is a combination of diffraction as well as interference. That is, the pattern on the screen is the diffraction pattern due to a single slit on which a system of interference fringes is superposed. Explanation. When a plane wavefront is incident normally on both slits, all points within the slits become the sources of secondary wavelets which travels in all directions. The secondary waves traveling in the direction of incident light come to a focus P0, while the secondary wavelets traveling in a direction making an angle theta with the incident direction come to a focus at P1. According to the theory of diffraction at a single slit, the resultant amplitude R due to all wavelets diffracted from each slit in a direction theta is given by R equals to A sin alpha by alpha, where A is a constant being equal to the amplitude due to a single slit, when theta equals to 0 and alpha equals to pi e sin theta by lambda. Thus, for simplicity, we consider the two slits as equivalent to two coherent sources S1 and S2 arranged at midpoints of the slits, and each source sending a wavelet of amplitude in a direction theta. Therefore, the resultant amplitude at a point P1 on the screen will be result of interference between two waves of amplitude and having a phase difference delta. To calculate delta, we draw a perpendicular S1k on S2k. The path difference between the wavelets from S1 and S2 in the direction theta is S2k, that is E plus d sin theta. Therefore, phase difference delta equals to 2 pi by lambda into path difference, that is 2 pi by lambda into E plus d sin theta. The resultant amplitude R at P1 can be obtained with the help of the figure. From figure, OH square equals to OG square plus GH square plus 2 OG OH GH cos delta. Substituting the values of that, we get R square equals to A sin alpha by alpha whole square plus A sin alpha by alpha whole square plus 2 into A sin alpha by alpha into A sin alpha by alpha into cos delta. That is, R square equals to A sin alpha by alpha whole square into 1 plus 1 plus 1 2 cos delta. By solving that, we get R square equals to A sin alpha by alpha whole R square equals to 4 into A sin alpha by alpha whole square into cos square delta by 2. that is 4 into a square sin square alpha by alpha square into cos square pi by lambda into e plus d sin theta. Therefore, 4 into a square sin square alpha by alpha square cos square beta, where beta is pi by lambda into e plus d sin theta. Therefore, the resultant intensity at P naught is given by I equals to R square equals to 4 into A square into sin square alpha by alpha square into cos square beta. Double slit experiment through Fourier transform. Two slits of equal widths A and separated by an opaque space B. Consider a line element dy at a distance y from the center O. Here the energy associated with the wavefront is uniformly distributed over both the slits. If C by A is the amplitude of vibration of the secondary sources, then vibration of secondary sources in the slit plane can be expressed as phi equals to C by A into e power I omega t. The displacement at P due to secondary sources of length dy at y with respect to center O is given by d phi of P equals to C by A divided by R1 d phi of B equals to C by A by R1 into e power I omega t minus k R1 into dy. From figure, R equals to R1 plus y sin theta. The length of the slit A is small compared to R and hence R1 is denominator may be replaced by R but not the exponential term. D phi of B equals to C by A by R into e power I into omega t minus k into R minus y sin theta into dy. That is C bar into e power I ky sin theta into dy, where C bar equals to C by A by R into e power I omega t minus kr. To find out the displacement at P due to all secondary sources, we have to consider all possible values of y, so as to include all the secondary sources included in the slits. Over the first slit, y varies from y equals to minus a by 2 to plus a by 2. And for the second slit, y varies from y equals to minus d plus a by 2 to d minus of d minus a by 2. Therefore, from that we can given as a square sin square alpha by alpha square, which is the same as derived from the single Fraunhofer diffraction. Thus, this gives the intensity distribution in the diffraction pattern due to any individual slit. Next is cos square beta, which gives the interference pattern due to waves starting from two parallel slits. The resultant intensity at any point on the screen is given by the product of these two factors. Examine each factor separately. The diffraction term sin square alpha by alpha square gives the central maximum in the direction theta equals to 0, having alternate maxima, and secondary